Hello, welcome back. Today I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit more about speaking of time in English. Sometimes it can be confusing to us Brazilians because, especially one example, which is actually the first thing I'm going to talk about today, because we tend to want to translate that sentence and it never goes down well. It just never works. So what I'm doing is giving you some real life examples with sentences and explaining to you guys some differences to help you get your head around this a little bit better. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is, imagine that you moved to London 3 years ago, okay, and you're talking to somebody about this and you want to say, like, today is the day that completes 3 years since I arrived in London. So this sentence is quite tricky normally to Brazilians to be able to say. So what you say is, it's 3 years since I arrived in London today. So it's 3 years since I arrived in London today. You can also say, it's been 3 years since I arrived in London today. And you can also say, well, there are so many examples, but I've got 3 for you that will help you get your idea across really clearly. I'm celebrating 3 years in London today. That's a good one too, okay? So always remember, you're not going to say do 3 years or make 3 years. That's going to be weird. So it's been 3 years since I arrived in London today, or it is 3 years since I arrived in London today, which works fine too. Or I'm celebrating 3 years in London today, okay? Make sure you make notes because you might need this very soon. Now, when you're referring to a time in the future related to your age, okay? So, for example, I am 33 now. Supposedly, I'm going to mention a time in the future when I am 40, okay? I would say, when I am 40, okay? When I am 40, I want to travel around the world, okay? Or when I turn 40, I want to travel around the world. Now look at this sentence, okay? By the time I turn 40, I want to have settled down. What does that mean? Calm down. It means by the time I am 40, so supposedly you're 30 now, okay? And you've got like 10 years from 30 to 40. So it could be any of those years, 31, 32, 33, 34, any of those years, 39, even 40. Okay, so 40 is like your limit. Okay, so this is like maximum. By the time I am 40, I want to have settled down. That means I want to already have found somebody to have a family with, or, you know, just like have a stable kind of life. You know, like when you settle down, normally it involves a good job or like a house or being in a serious relationship with someone. That's what settle down means, okay? So you would say, by the time I'm 40, I want to have settled down. I want to have settled down in the future, okay? By the time I'm 40, not when I am 40, literally 40, okay, now I want to settle down. That's the difference. When you say, when I am 40, I want to settle down, it means, okay, today I am 40, now I want to settle down. Different to saying, by the time I'm 40, I want to have settled down. That means 40 is your limit. Okay, by the time you're 40, this is it. You've got 10 years to make this happen, guys, honestly. Something else related to time, you could say, well, I've been saying this since I was little. I've been saying this since I was little. Since is about time as well. Going back to this time that you were little, you were a kid. I've been saying this since I was little. I've always said, by the time I'm 40, I want to have settled down. I've been saying this since I was little. You see? Another useful sentence about time. Now you could say, I'm thinking about going back to Brazil. Supposedly you live abroad. I'm thinking about going back to Brazil in a year's time. or in 2 years' time, in 3 months' time. So that is in a year's time. So supposedly now is, say, April 2021. In a year's time would be April 2022, and that's when you wish to go back. If you say, I really want to go back to Brazil in 2 months' time, now it's April, you want to be coming back to Brazil in June. You see? So you always say in a year's time, in 2 months' time, in 5 years' time. That's another very useful structure to refer to time. Now, if you do live abroad, there's a question I'm sure you'll get asked a lot, because that used to happen to me all the time when people learned that I was not English. They would say, well, how long have you been here for? How long have you been here for? You could also say, how long have you been here? You don't need for at the end, okay? And then you could say, well, it's actually 2 years tomorrow. See? It's 2 years tomorrow. It's 3 months tomorrow. If it's today, you could say, well, it's a year today. See? It's a very simple way to talk about that. Again, you could say almost 3 years, almost a year, almost 10 months, because it's not quite, but almost. So guys, talking about time, like referring to a period of time, is so important, something that we have got to learn to be able to communicate effectively, okay? When you're asking and say, how long have you been here? How long have you been here for? If you want, you know, you can or you don't have to use for at the end, but you can if you want to. You could say, if you wanted to ask a question, you could say, what are your plans for the next year? For the next year. What are your plans for the next year? What are your plans for the next 10 months? What are your plans for the next 6 months? For the next 6 months. For the next year. Okay, simple things but useful things, I hope. Thank you for being here today and have a wonderful week. I'll see you all next time, that's for sure. Thanks.